Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Best and Worst of Walt Disney World. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined this week by Mr. Steve Porter.
Hello.
And back in the production nook, our associate producer, Mr. Rhino Clavin on the switch, along with our producer, Craig Williams. So, not that they matter, because they're not going to talk throughout this, but, they're there, so I figured let's just acknowledge them. So, this week, we are going to talk about, since the summer is upon us, we're going to talk about the best places in Walt Disney World in the theme parks to cool off. Now, not just to cool off, but, my standard going into this list was, look, I can walk into, a shop or someplace and just get some air conditioning for a couple minutes. But when you're touring the parks in the dead of summer and it's 95 degrees with 90% humidity and it's crowded and it's busy, you want to actually kind of decompress. Mm-hmm. You don't want to just get 3 or 4 minutes of cooling off. You need to be able to sit down. You need to be able to relax.
And you don't want to be the weirdo that's sitting on the... I didn't mean that.
What? You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Sitting on the floor of a gift shop.
Yeah. And you also don't want to be the weirdo doing the other thing he said.
Sorry.
And I want you to leave that in. I don't want you to take that out.
It was a slip up. I'm so sorry.
Rhino is cracking up back there. So, yeah, you don't want to be doing either of those two things. One will get you arrested. The other one, you'll just piss people off.
Now my face red.
That's all. Look, it's so cute. All right, so... that was kind of how I went into this. So I've got my top 5. I've got a few honorable mentions. My number 5 in the Magic Kingdom is Carousel of Progress. Classic attraction. You're going to be in there for a good 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you sit. It's comfortable. It's air conditioned. And it is an absolute classic Disney attraction. That's the bonus. There are some on this list that are not by any means classics, but they're really good to cool off.
That would be one of my honorable mentions. It's, I would say it's even a good place to take a nap because it gets dark in there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a great one.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 is the film that's at the end of One Man's Dream. So whether it's the original film that goes along with Walt Disney's life, or if it's just one of the trailers, recently they've been doing that where they just put a trailer for the upcoming movie or an upcoming Disney movie. So that's just a good place to, chill out, sit down, kind of like Carousel of Progress,
All right. Well, number 4 on my list is the American Adventure at Epcot. Again, first... you can hang out in the rotunda, mm-hmm. waiting for the Voices of Liberty. Then you go into the show. You're seated. It's comfortable. It's a great show. And you're in there for a decent amount of time. So, that's really, I enjoy the whole experience, but especially on hot days, great way to just kind of decompress and kind of get a second wind after running around the parks in the heat. Yeah,
no, that's another good. A lot of these are those great theater, comfortable seat type mm-hmm. places.
That's what I like.
But I'll mix it up with this one, and I said Spaceship Earth.
Is your number 4?
Yeah, it's my number 4. It's not particularly long, but it's you're getting to enjoy a classic Disney ride, and it's cool. You get to sit down. It's not a thrill ride. It's just nice and calm, cooling. It's just I think it's a good one for Epcot, especially if you are doing it later in the day when you need that break, especially, and the line's not going to be long.
Right.
So that's why I put it there.
Yeah, that is one of the nice things about Spaceship Earth. If you're doing it later in the day, then the line usually isn't as crazy as it is in the beginning of the day.
It's definitely one of the rides where if you go early in the morning, there's the biggest difference between that ride in the morning compared to night than any other ride, I think, at Walt Disney World, because it's that first thing that people see when they come in. So I've seen that ride have an 80-minute wait, but I've also seen it have walk-on.
Right, exactly.
So
I've seen it be 80 minutes at noon mm-hmm. and 5 minutes at 3.
Right.
And the reason that these are important as you're putting together your touring plans during the summer, really be thinking about this. everything sounds great on paper. I'm going to go here and I'm going to run here. And we're going to do this. We're going to do that. But be thinking about, it's Florida heat. Mm-hmm. So be thinking about, kind of dotting your itinerary with some of these attractions, saying, okay, at this point, it might be nice for us to take a little break and see something, experience something, but also kind of chill out and cool off.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is Hall of Presidents at Magic Kingdom, which is still another month away, I think, from...
Yeah, I think the end of June it will
End of
reopen.
June it'll be open. But again, you've got this long presentation in a big, comfortable theater, which seems to be my thing on my list. Big, comfortable theaters. But Hall of Presidents, definitely my number 3.
That's a good one. That was one of my honorable mentions as well. My number 3 is actually the Universe of Energy. I do not enjoy this ride if you're going for the ride experience, but if you're going because you want 45 minutes in darkness and 45 minutes to maybe have a whole bench that you could possibly lay down on if you wanted to, it's a great slow-moving attraction.
Yeah, that made my number 2. That was my number 2 is Universe of Energy because it's 17 hours long. It is a terrible attraction. It is terrible. But you're sitting for most of it. It's air-conditioned. And literally, it's like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes total.
It's 45 minutes from the time you watch the pre-show to the time you walk out. And so, yeah, that made my number 2. I do want to mention that Spaceship Earth actually was one of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
But what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Impressions de France.
I think,
Epcot. Same long lines. We like these theaters. I just particularly like the show, and I think it has good AC in there, and I find the chairs comfortable. So that was my number 2.
All right. Well, my number 1 is Festival of the Lion King at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now that it is in a contained building with air conditioning as opposed to the open air theater it used to be. And now, granted, these are not quote unquote comfortable seats. They're benches, but you're in there for a decent amount of time. You're sitting down, and the entertainment simply cannot be beat. I do not think there is a better live show inside a theme park anywhere in the world. Not that I've seen them all, but I've seen a lot of them. And this, from the day it opened, the caliber of the performers and the show itself has been absolutely unrivaled. So for that reason, I feel very comfortable putting that as my number one.
I think that's a good one, especially because Animal Kingdom is so hot in the summer
and
it didn't make my list only because I don't like...
Because you have no taste.
No, I don't like sitting on benches. And I wish they had the actual chairs in there. That would give it that extra little bump for me. But no, it is a good one though, because Animal Kingdom runs 10 degrees warmer than any place else on Earth. So
exactly.
But my number 1 is actually not an attraction. So I kind of went for a curveball on my last one. It's the second floor of Columbia Harbor House in the Magic Kingdom. I know it's oddly specific, but it is cool up there. It's typically not that crowded. You got air conditioning. You can have a whole table to yourself. Even if you're not eating a meal, they're not going to kick you out. So
now, the number of people that are going to write you saying, every time I go up there to eat, to get a table, and there are people sitting there doing nothing. So you're promoting badness.
I am, but I'm also promoting cooling down so you don't faint. So I'm promoting good health.
There you go. My honorable mentions, Living with the Land in Epcot. I love the attraction. The reason it didn't make my list is because through part of it, you're in a greenhouse. So it's not exactly air conditioned, but it's a really comfortable ride. Muppets 3D at Hollywood Studios is another one that is a nice place to cool off. And of course, Spaceship Earth. What were your honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions kind of overlap some of the ones that you'd mentioned, but Carousel of Progress and the Hall of Presidents were my 2.
Okay, so give your top 5 again.
Top 5 for me, starting with number 5, is the film at One Man Stream, Spaceship Earth, Universe of Energy, Impressions de France, and the second floor of Columbia Harbor House.
And for me, number 5 was Carousel of Progress, The American Adventure, Hall of Presidents, Universe of Energy, and Festival of the Lion King, with honorable mentions to Living with the Land, Muppets, and Spaceship Earth. So there you go. That's what we think are the best places, and certainly not the only ones, but the ones that we found that we like to cool off when you are visiting the theme parks at Walt Disney World. So we hope you enjoyed it. This will do it for this episode of the Best and Worst of Walt Disney World. We'll be back with you again next week. Thanks for being with us, everyone.